Einen schönen guten Tag heute wieder bei The Daily Drum. Danke fürs Zuschauen, danke fürs Einschalten. Heute haben wir einen ganz speziellen Gast, das ist Gemma Patterson und sie ist Global Brand Ambassador von The Balvenie. Kleinen Augenblick nur. Wir freuen uns wirklich sehr, dass sie sich die Zeit genommen hat und bei uns zu Gast zu sein. Natürlich auch ein herzliches Hallo zu Hause an die Zuseher von The Spirit Way of Life, aber auch natürlich auf Falstaff und vom Liquid Market. Wir werden jetzt mit Gemma ein bisschen über sie plaudern, wie sie zu dem Job gekommen ist, was sie so macht und wie es so geht zurzeit. Und ich darf sie jetzt auch gleich dazu schalten. Here we go. Hello, Gemma. How are you?
Hi, Andy. Hello, everybody. I'm great. How are you?
Very fine. Thank you very, very much. Uh, Guys at home, this is Gemma Paterson. She is the global brand ambassador of the Balvenie uh, Single Malt Whiskey, home in Dufftown. She is joining us from Scotland, right? You're
Yeah,
back home in Scotland,
I
and
am. I'm in Scotland. I'm in Speyside, actually.
there you go. So
So,
very close to the distillery. Uh, and for you guys at home, if you have any questions for Gemma, just write in the comments, give me a nod up, and I will ask the questions right away so you get your answers. Gemma, well, tell us a little bit about yourself. So you're global brand ambassador. How did you get there? And
yes. So I've been the global brand ambassador for Balvenie for 2 years now. Prior to that, I spent a bit of time out in America. I lived in New York, where I was the ambassador for East Coast US. But then before that, I worked at our distilleries. So I worked across Glenfiddich and Balvenie, hosting visitors from around the world. Um, for a few years there as well. So I've been working for Balvenie for around 7 years now. It's definitely my number one passion, the place and the people there, and the whiskey, of course.
yeah, I can only I can share that because I've been to the distillery now a few times, and it's a very special place. It's great people, just great atmosphere. But as you said, you've been working for them for 7 years now, and I think
Yes.
that's something that kind of runs within in the Balvenie distillery, right? There's quite a lot of people who work there a long time.
Yeah, I'm a Balvenie baby in comparison to a lot of our colleagues because some of them have been 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years. In the case of our coppersmith, Dennis McBain, he joined in 1958 and he's
Wow.
still very much a part of the distillery, although he's officially retired. He's still with, he comes and meets people and greets people regularly, so he's always around. Although I had a call with Dennis the other day, and obviously he's in his mid 70s now. He's worked with us since he was a teenage boy. And Dennis said he finally knows what it feels like to be retired because he's obviously isolating at home right now too.
Yeah, that's
After
something.
62 years, he's now
Wow,
learned
great.
how to be retired.
62 years. That's passion, and it says something about the company you work for. Sorry, because Balvenie is part of William Grant and Sons, and it's a family company, and I think that says already a lot about a company that people spend a lot of time there. I think David will be David Stewart, if you don't know, is the malt master of Balvenie. He's probably running for 60 years very shortly, or?
Yeah, this year's his 58th year. So it was September 1962 when he first started at the tender age of 17, came to work with his briefcase and his suit, working within the whiskey stocks team, and started what would become a 12-year apprenticeship to eventually become master blender in 1974.
Oh, and still going, right? Man,
Yeah.
he is kind of, I think, preparing for retirement because recently somebody joined the team.
No official retirement for David yet, but he does have an apprentice. Well, his second apprentice. So maybe as many of you know, Brian Kinsman is now our master blender for the company, and Brian was David's apprentice up until 2010. Then he took over the role as master blender, and David kept his position as Balvenie malt master. So David just exclusively works on Balvenie now, whereas Brian looks after our entire portfolio of whiskies from Glenfiddich, obviously, through to our Tullamore Dew, Grant's, our blended whiskey, absolutely everything else. Monkey Shoulder,
Wow.
but David looks after Balvenie. So 2 years ago, we officially announced that David has a new apprentice, a young woman called Kelsey McKechnie. And Kelsey, she's worked with us for several years now as well. She used to work with Leslie Gracie on Hendrick's Gin. She worked with as a whiskey technologist very closely with Brian and David for a few years, and now she's working really more closely with David.
Wow. So yeah, and I think it's going to be quite a few years from now till the apprenticeship will be finished. Uh,
Yeah,
so global brand ambassador, that's kind of a position that many people probably are not that familiar with. And if we talk global, then we're talking global. So I think just before the lockdown and the problem with the virus we're having right now, you've been traveling quite a lot, or so?
yeah, and I guess I really was supposed to be flying to Puerto next week, or the end of this week. I was supposed to be in Korea and Taiwan already this year, but both of those trips were cancelled. Um, yeah, normally a lot of travel all over the world. Well, we met for the first time,
Yeah,
that was almost 2 years ago now in Switzerland,
yeah.
when I was new to the global position pretty much, and you were new to your position with us,
Mm.
kind of starting out together.
Was actually my first trip back then to go to Switzerland. So I think I started a week before, and and I remember going into the hotel. We were at the Marriott back then, and then you did this tasting with the journalist, and I was just sitting there, and then Fleur introduced us and said, "Ah, Andy, come over and join us." And then you had these small little bottles with you, and you were just, oh, you should taste that, definitely. So thanks to you, I got right away my first week. I got to try a Balvenie 50-year-old and a DCS compendium. So that was a very special and great first week for me. And I have to thank you for that.
Definitely not a standard day on the job.
No,
Like really very special indeed to try whiskey that's been cast for that length of time.
yeah, definitely.
Very memorable.
Mm, and actually, I was at the distillery then in, I think, March the year after. Took a group from the Ritz-Carlton in Vienna there, and actually David Mayer took out another bottle of 50 and gave us a taste. So
Spoiled. Spoiled
yeah,
Andy.
definitely.
We'll have to apologise to everybody at home having to listen to us talk about drinking 50-year-old whiskey together.
Yeah, um, that's some of the perks sometimes you get with the job, I would say. But tell us a little bit about your visits to the distillery, a little bit about the people and what's going on there. Some things that we otherwise would never probably hear.
Sure. I mean, I guess I work very closely with the distillery and our craftsmen, and especially over the last few years because I actually have a whiskey in my hand, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I've not had a sip of it yet, but we
Well,
coordinated our drams, didn't we?
yeah.
So, I mean, also you've given me a good excuse to clock off and have a dram at 4 o'clock for me. So
Oh
this
yeah,
is
it's
a
an
nice
hour
end
later.
to my day.
Well,
Get away from the desk.
well, cheers to you. Cheers to you guys at
Cheers.
home.
Lunch.
Uh, Slanche. Uh, if you have a dram at home, please help yourself. Have a drink with us. Doesn't matter what you have as long as you enjoy it. Cheers.
Yep. Raise the glass to your health. Cheers.
Mm. We're actually having a single barrel, 12-year-old. Um, maybe you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, for sure. So single barrel, it really is a single barrel. It's part of our core range with Balvenie. But we do bottle this as a single barrel range. So David, he noses thousands of barrels to select just one that he would want to bottle as a single barrel release. So I've actually been in the lab, in the tasting lab with David and with Kelsey when they've been selecting them, and they'll have maybe 300 samples drawn straight from the cask in Dufton, sent down to Glasgow. to Bells Hill, where we have our tasting lab, our bottling facility out at Strathclyde Business Park. And that tasting room is where David and Kelsey work from every day. And it is like a whiskey lover's dream to be in that room, because floor to ceiling, wall to wall, there are thousands of tiny bottles of samples drawn from the cask. So all cask strength, all natural color, from pale gold like this to deep rich mahogany, various ages from a few years old going right through to samples from the 60s. Um, it's a beautiful place to be. But this one particular day, David and Kelsey were selecting casks for the single barrel range, and they had about 300 samples that had come been sent down, and they do them in batches of 25, have them all lined up, nose through 25, and select the best ones that will eventually go on and be bottled and end up in our glasses like right now. And the interesting thing will be if we compare our bottles, Andy, we're going to probably have, I mean, how amazing would it be if we have a bottle that's drawn from the same cask?
That would be
All
amazing,
right.
definitely.
So every bottle, I don't know if you guys can see this at home. Oh, we'll let you have a look. You're 15259. I'm 4777. Bottle number 278, and I'm bottle number 126. There we go.
Yeah.
That would have been like some kind of magic if we'd ended up with the same cast. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing, the single barrel range. The cask number, you've got that individual cask number, and someone in our bottling hall in Dufton has handwritten every single bottle number on each of these as well. But obviously, a special thing to have is the range, because you're always going to get slight batch variation. So I mean, we could do a comparative tasting right now, but your dram's going to be slightly different from mine. So, like, obviously, every cask is as unique as a snowflake, as a fingerprint. So, the beautiful thing about the single barrel range is it's always going to be slightly unique.
Yeah. There's actually a 15 and a 25-year-old as well.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, we don't get any in Austria.
sorry about
Yeah.
that. Especially because the 15 is the sherry cask, and
Yeah.
it's quite unusual to have the single sherry cask with Balvenie,
Mm.
certainly.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I have another sip.
I was telling you about my trips to the
Mm.
distillery. Then I got distracted because I was gesturing and realizing I had this grab in my hand and hadn't had a sip yet. Um, yeah, so I've worked quite a lot with the team at our craftsmen at the distillery over the last couple of years, because we've launched a new series of Balvenie called the Stories series. You have one of the bottles sitting behind you. Yes, the 12 Sweet Toast of American Oak. So there's 3 already released, and I can confirm there's definitely more to come. But we have 3 that we released last year: the 12 Sweet Toast of American Oak, 14 Week of Peat, and 26 Day of Dark Barley. And each one features our craftsmen who made that whiskey and a story behind it. So, for example, the 26th Day of Dark Barley involves the story of a day back in 1992 when we'd actually ordered a batch of heavily roasted malt that would typically be used for beer. And it arrived in a lorry to the distillery on a day that the team weren't expecting it. And it was pouring rain outside. They had to run out and carry every single bag one by one up into the malt loft from the pouring rain. By the end of the day, they were spent, but the next day, came back in, made whiskey from this stuff, and now here we are 26 years later, and we have this beautiful bottle and beautiful whiskey. The whiskey, we only filled 100 casks, 100 American oak barrels back in 1992. So it was a trial, it was an experiment, something we never repeated. So it is something very unique. It's a little piece of Balvenie history, and it's nice to capture that and share the story of the team who made it and their journey back then in
Yeah.
1992. So yeah, I've been spending a bit of time at the distillery on covering these stories and speaking to the craftsmen. We recorded a few podcasts. So if anybody wants to listen to some challenging Scottish accents, you can hop on to, I guess, like any podcasting platform. So if you have Spotify or iTunes,
Yeah.
um, SoundCloud, you can find them on there, and you can listen to me interviewing the men and women who made the whiskies. So, for example, for Sweet Toast of American Oak, Kelsey and I went out to Kentucky and spent a couple of days. We met the team at Kelvin Cooperage who made the barrels. You'll hear from Kelsey talking about how she made that whiskey. It's really the first one that she has worked on from start to finish with Balvenie. And then we hang out with our coopers in Dufton as well and have a chat with Ian Mcdonald, our head cooper,
I,
who had
I,
to go back and record him again because he talks so fast and has such a thick accent,
yeah.
nobody could understand him.
I've met Ian last year in the summertime. I was up there, and we had lunch together in the distillery. Uh, for me, since I've been there now a few times in Scotland, it's gotten kind of easier to understand. But I've had a few journalists with me from Austria, and it was like, Andy, can you ask him
Can't
to talk
understand a word.
slower? But he's a great guy. So
Yes. Ian also celebrated, we had some big parties for him last year because in April the 29th, he celebrated his 50th year anniversary with the company.
yeah, crazy, crazy long. Well, he
50 years as a cooper, that is hard work.
yeah,
It's physically demanding job.
and he's quick, right?
He's very quick. He
Smooth.
calls himself, so he's quite short. He's short in stature but big in character. Ian calls himself the Mini Cooper, and he says he always jokes he used to be the Mini Cooper S, but now he's just the Mini Cooper. So he's not as fast as he used to be, he says, but he's still pretty quick.
Yeah, but definitely, but a great character, and so are pretty much everybody I've met up there, be it Charlie Metcalf or David Mayer or great people. And it's just when you come to the distillery. So if you unfortunately right now the tours are closed, but guys, if you make it up there and book a tour at the Balvenie, you'll get to that nice little house, and you go in and you sit down in front of the fireplace and get a coffee or tea, some cookies, and have a little chat, and then you just go on a really great tour. Uh,
It's just another pace of life at Balvenie, and the tour, we only have one tour. You have to commit if you want to do the tour at Balvenie. You can't just come and knock on the door and say, "Hey, I want to see the distillery," and be whipped round in an hour. It's, I mean, about 3.5, 4 hours the tour lasts for. And you sit down, like you said, you have a bit of a chat, get to know each other, talk a little bit about history, and then take a wander through the distillery, hear stories from the guys, meet some of the craftsmen, and then obviously you'll see the cooperage and the maltings, and you really do see the whole whiskey making process at the distillery. And it is a lovely place to be in, a nice pace of life.
yeah, definitely. When I was up there last night, Charlie told us that there might be, or there will be at some point in the future, an estate whiskey. Is that
Yeah.
something we can talk about already, or
I mean, it's coming soon. So obviously with the current situation, I think it's gonna definitely impact the launch of the new whiskey that we have coming out. But hopefully, next month we'll start to see it has been bottled, this
or
whiskey. I can
really?
confirm. So right before, I guess, we were pretty lucky that it was bottled, and I spoke to one of our warehousemen who delivered the casks through, to be tipped for filling into the bottles. So it was, basically this whiskey, it was batted together in 20 sherry butts. So matured first of all in American oak, batted together to marry for a couple of months in sherry butts, and then those 20 sherry butts have now gone for bottling.
Wow.
So everyone at home can keep an eye out for some new news coming from us in the
Yeah.
next month. We may have some new podcasts to listen to as well. And actually, what we did this time, we've recorded some video that we can subtitle because of the challenge in accents.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to listen to the podcast, to the Balvenie stories, whenever you buy a bottle, there's actually a little neck hanger on it. So if you have a QR code reader, you go directly to the video and can watch that. Of course, just go to balvenie.com and you can find them as well. Um, it's quite interesting and quite fun to listen to it. If nothing else, it's definitely something that gives you more appreciation for what people are doing there because it's handmade. It's what Balvenie is probably one of only six distilleries left with floor maltings.
Mhm. Yeah, the maltings are very special to have, and we've done a number of experiments with the floor maltings over the years, which has given us a lot of great whiskies that we can now release over the coming years to come.
Great, great,
Yeah,
great.
not just it's not just having the maltings and having the cooperage; it's the people, like like we said, everyone who works there just has so much passion for the whiskey and for what they do. It really does feel like a family.
Guys, if you at home, if you have any questions, just give us a quick comment, and I can pass it along. Um, yeah, we'll see. I mean, we've been scheduled to come up to the studio this year as well, so I'll hope we'll get the chance in the next few months to
Yes.
catch up. Definitely, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Because it's for me every time it's a special thing to be up there. Last time we actually got to stay at the Torrin House. Uh, One thing that's always kind of a thing is how is the relationship with Glenfiddich? Because I know when you work for Balvenie or for Glenfiddich, there's always a little bit of friendly.
Well,
Uh,
actually, it's funny because the Glenfiddich team always laugh and they call me their Ronaldo because I started my career with Glenfiddich, and I started working at the distillery, and then I ended up being scouted by the Balvenie team in America, who then flew me over from Speyside to Stateside, and I'd never been to the States before. Like I'll tell you right now, Andy, I was sitting at my desk one day in 2016, and I got a phone call from the Balvenie brand manager in the States asking me if I would be interested in moving to New York. He then flew me over for an interview, and it was the first time I'd been to the States. Um, did the whole interview, came back, got the job, and then found myself packing up my house in Scotland and moving my life over to New York. Um, and that was when I was kind of 100% on Balvenie, but I'd always kind of done both. I'd always been primarily Glenfiddich and then working a bit on Balvenie. But from 2016, that was when I was truly captured by Balvenie, and now I can't imagine working as an ambassador for anybody else.
well, that speaks again for the brand and for the people. And of course, you have great colleagues anyways, with Struan working for Glenfiddich
Yeah.
as the global brand ambassador. The
I
whiskey,
still I still love Glenfiddich. Actually, the other night I was drinking Glenfiddich 15, and it had been a little while, maybe a few months or even a year since I had it last. And wow, it's such an incredible whiskey. I'd say my favorite whiskeys, hands down, from our portfolio is Balvenie 12 Doublewood and Glenfiddich 15. Like those two whiskeys are just can drink them anytime.
yep, that's for sure. Glenfiddich 15 also for me is a great dram because it's
Yeah.
very approachable, has all the traits of a big whiskey and double wood anyways. It's been the first finished whiskey, so it has a podium of its own for sure. And also for you guys at home, we'll hopefully this week start having our tasting packages. So in the future, the next few weeks, there will be live tastings where you can get a tasting set. So it's going to be 5 whiskeys in it, glass, and some other information. And I've talked to Gemma earlier today that she might be joining us for those tastings. So as soon as we have those packages ready, we'll let you know, and we'll set up a, a tasting where we can go through the whiskeys with you, and you have the drams in front of you, and hopefully you're gonna enjoy that. From my side, I would say I don't know. if you're still if you're busy or you have anything else to do. But um, so far, I have no questions right now from the audience, and I have to say,
Ah,
um,
making it too easy for us, Andy.
yeah,
Just have a wee chat ourselves.
yeah, there you go. Um,
Right, I've got a question for the
yeah,
audience. Can I ask a
of
question?
course,
So, I talked a little bit about Ian. I mean, I don't know if there's any way that we can have a bit of a challenge. We can instigate a bit of a challenge right now for everyone. So, I talked about Ian McDonald and how he celebrated 50 years last year. Now, he is an exceptional cooper, an exceptional barrel maker, and I calculated on average how many barrels he has built in his career with us at the distillery. So we sat down the maths, we figured it out, and I'm wondering if the first person to get closest to that number writing into you, if we could send them a complimentary sample kit.
definitely. I was just gonna say that when you started for the question, and we're actually gonna do that now right away. So if you have a guess of how many barrels Ian has been making in his whole career, drop us in the comments, and whoever gets closest will definitely get a tasting kit from us as soon as they're available.
Yeah.
So that's
So,
great idea.
recap, Ian has spent 50 years of his life making barrels. So, yeah, I guess if you think about 50 years, 5 working days in the week, how many barrels do you think he could have made?
Should we give them a little hint of how many barrels are made every week in total?
Nah.
Nah. Because that was a question of mine last time I talked to him and asked him right away, how many casks do you guys make a week? Because there's 14 people in there and it's loud in
Yeah,
there and
they
it's
do.
it's hard work. And I think that the only really big machine that takes away the hard work is the one where that stumps together the rings on the casks. But
Yeah,
everything
the
else,
hoop driver
yeah,
drives on each of the hoops.
yeah. But everything else is just hand and muscle.
Very physical.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a hard job. And these guys are 5 days a week from morning till evening. And that's, I'll tip my hat to that, to that work. It's been doing it for 50 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Even
And
great.
when you consider actually the whiskey that we have in our glasses, it's on average 60 to 80% of the flavors influenced by the cask, by the barrel, and probably a bit more so on a first fill like this. Whereas if you try the single barrel 25, it's a refill. So obviously it's had more time in the cask, but the cask will have a bit less influence, allowing the distillery character to
Mm.
come through a little bit more. But yeah, when you consider the impact the casks have, so important to have coopers who really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And even just some of the casks on site, Andy, that we have that are older. So, we've got a significant amount of barrels that are 30, 40, 50, uh, even 60, pushing 60 years old.
Mm.
So those barrels and casks, while they're maturing in the warehouses, they need a bit of care and a bit of maintenance as well over time.
Yeah, I've seen a cask from 1967 in warehouse 24.
Mm.
And yeah, that's just amazing to have that in there. And I think Charlie said it's still more than half full, so it's keeping up very well and it can go
We've
on.
not lost too much to the angels or to some wandering dogs.
Wandering dogs?
Yeah, you
I,
know.
I gotcha. Copper dogs. I don't have one here with me right now. But if once you get to the distillery, you'll know what she's talking about right now. So if you get a tour and get to bottle your own little bottle, you'll know what a walking dog is. We'll keep that a secret for now. Definitely. So yeah, again, once you give us a comment about how many casks Ian has built in 50 years, uh, give us an estimate, and whoever gets it right or closest to will get a tasting kit from us, and we'll get in touch with you, of course. Um, just to give you a little bit of a hint, I'm not going to tell you how many casks are being made. I'll tell you how many casks are are in Dufftown in the 47 warehouses up there.
That's a good stat.
Yeah, so there's 47 warehouses, and we're talking around about 1 million casks that are at the site in Dufftown. So that's I think that's a good hint to start with.
Yeah. You know, I'm comforted by that stat. I'm really comforted by it right now. Like with everything that's going on in the world, that whiskey is still there in the warehouses, maturing away.
Mm, yeah, it's an unbelievable number. Just
Yeah.
walking by there and seeing those empty barrels lined up that are waiting to being rebuilt and kept up. It's just as far as you can see. And yeah, I'm sure whiskey will not run out in the next years. Well, we're safe. All right, Gemma. Then thank you very much for taking your time and coming to talk with me a little bit. For you
Of
guys at home,
course, it's an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
and for you guys at home, thank you again for tuning in and watching a little bit. Again, leave us a comment. Also, ideas for what we should talk next or any questions that I can pass along. Thank you again for watching. I wish you a wonderful evening. You as well, Gemma. Have a great evening, great week, and we'll definitely keep in touch. We'll keep you guys at home posted as well. Tomorrow we'll have Ewald Stroma again in a talk, and on Thursday we can welcome Kirsten Grant, and she is the granddaughter of William Grant, the company founder, and very excited to have her as well. I wish you all the best. Have a good evening, and goodbye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Goodbye.